Jacques Randall had dinner alone at his home. After that, he told his helper that he could go outside. Then he sat down at his table to write letters. He did this every year. He'd think about what had happened in his life since the last New Year's Day. He remembered his friends and wrote them friendly New Year's messages. On January 1st, Jacques opened a drawer, took out a picture of a woman, looked at it, and kissed it. Then he put it next to a piece of paper and began to write, "My dear Irene, you probably got the little gift I sent you. I sent it to the maid. I stayed at home this evening to tell you." His pen stopped. Jacques got up and started walking around the room. For 10 months, he had a special person in his life, different from the others. She wasn't like the people you briefly get involved with in the theater world or other similar places. He loved her, and she loved him back. Jacques wasn't very young anymore, but he was still relatively young. He took life seriously and thought practically. So he thought about his strong feelings for her, just like he thought about his friendships, people he had met, and changes in his life over the past year. His love had settled down from the initial excitement. He considered what his feelings for her were next now, and what they might become in the future. He realized that he cared deeply for her, filled with love, gratitude, and all the little things that make love strong. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and Jacques was surprised. He wasn't sure whether to open the door, but he thought it was important to welcome anyone who came on New Year's night. So he took a wax candle, went through the hallway, unlocked the door, and saw his girlfriend. She looked very pale and was leaning against the wall. He said nervously, "What's wrong?" She asked, "Are you all by yourself?" "Yes," he replied. "Are there no staff around?" She inquired. "No, there's no one else here. You're not planning to go out?" He questioned. "No," Jacques said. She walked in, looking like she knew the place well. Once in the living room, she sat down on the couch. She hid her face in her hands and started crying. Jacques knelt beside her, gently trying to take her hands away from her face so he could see her. He asked with concern, "Irene, what's going on? Please tell me what's wrong." Amid her tears, she said, "I can't go on like this." "Go on like this? What do you mean?" he asked. "Yes, I can't go on like this. I've suffered so much," she explained. "He hit me this afternoon." "Who? Your husband?" "Yes, my husband." Jacques was surprised. He had never thought her husband could be so cruel. Her husband seemed like a sophisticated man, part of the upper class. He was a member of a club, loved horses, enjoyed going to the theater, and was skilled in fencing. People knew him and spoke highly of him. He had polite manners, but he wasn't particularly intelligent. He lacked the education and the knowledge needed to think like a refined individual. However, he adhered to social norms. He seemed to be a devoted husband, as expected among affluent and well-mannered people. He showed concern for Irene's desires, her well-being, her clothing, and allowed her considerable freedom. As Jacques became Irene's friend and later her lover, his interactions with her husband remained affable, as was appropriate. Jacques had never suspected that their marriage was troubled, so this revelation caught him off guard. He inquired, "How did this happen? Tell me." Irene then shared her story, recounting the entire history of her life since her marriage. It began with minor disagreements, increasing with each new difference between their dissimilar personalities. Their disputes led to a complete separation, although it wasn't visible to others. Her husband's behavior turned aggressive, distrustful, and violent. Recently, he had become jealous, specifically of Jacques. On the very day of their altercation, he had struck her. She made it clear, saying, "I will return to him." "Do as you wish with me." Jacques sat down across from her, their knees touching. He gently held her hands and said, "My dear, you're about to make a big, irreversible mistake. If you want to leave your husband, make sure he's the one at fault, so you can maintain your reputation as a classy lady." She looked at him with concern and asked, "So what should I do?" Jacques advised, "Go back home and endure your life there until the day you can obtain a separation or divorce, and do it with dignity." She questioned, "Isn't your advice a bit cowardly?" He explained, "No, it's smart and practical. You have a high position, a reputation to uphold, friends to keep, and family ties to maintain. You shouldn't risk losing all of that due to a passing whim." She stood up, saying firmly, "No, I can't bear it any longer. It's over. It's over." Then she placed her hands on Jacques' shoulders, looked directly into his eyes, and asked, "Do you love me?" He replied, "Yes, truly and sincerely." She inquired, "Yes?" He affirmed. "In that case, take care of me," she requested. He exclaimed, "Take care of you in my own house here? Why? You're acting irrationally. It would mean losing you forever with no chance of getting you back. You're being unreasonable." She replied slowly and seriously, like someone who knows the seriousness of her words. "Listen, Jacques, he has forbidden me to see you again, and I won't play this game of secretly coming to your house. You must either lose me or accept me." "My dear Irene, in that case, get a divorce and I'll marry you," he responded. "Yes, you'll marry me in at least 2 years. Your love is PTI. Look here. Think about it. If you stay here, he'll come tomorrow to take you away. He's your husband, and he has the law on his side. I didn't ask you to keep me in your own house, Jacques. I just wanted you to take me somewhere else. I thought you loved me enough to do that. I was wrong. Goodbye." She turned and rushed toward the door so quickly that he could only catch her once she was outside the room. "Listen, Irene," he said. She struggled and wouldn't listen to him. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she stuttered, "Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone." He insisted on making her sit down, and once again kneeling at her feet, he presented a series of reasons and advice to help her understand the foolishness and the terrible risks of her plan. He didn't leave out anything he thought necessary to convince her, drawing motivation from his deep affection for her. As she stayed silent and remained as cold as ice, he pleaded with her and implored her to listen, to trust him, and to follow his advice. When he finished speaking, she responded, "Are you willing to let me go now? Remove your hands so I can get up." "Listen, Irene, will you let me go? Irene, is your decision final? Will you let me go? Just tell me if you're absolutely sure about this decision, this hasty choice of yours, which you'll deeply regret." "Yes, let me go then. Go. You know this is your place. We'll leave tomorrow morning." Despite his efforts, she rose to her feet and said sternly, "No, It's too late. I don't want sacrifice or devotion. Stay. I've done what I should. I've said what I had to say. I have no more responsibility for you. My conscience is clear. Tell me what you want me to do, and I obey." She returned to her seat, gazing at him for a while, and then calmly asked, "So explain." "Explain what? What would you like me to clarify?" "Everything. Everything you were thinking before you changed your mind. Then I'll decide what to do." "But I didn't think of anything at all. I had to warn you about the foolish choice you were making. You insist, so I want to be a part of this decision, and I even demand it. It's not common to change one's mind so quickly. Listen, my dear love. This isn't about sacrifice or devotion. On the day I realized I loved you, I told myself what every lover should do in the same situation. The man who loves a woman, who makes an effort to win her, who wins her heart, and who takes her, forms a sacred connection with himself and with her. Of course, this applies when the woman is like you, not someone with a fickle heart who's easily influenced. Marriage has significant social and legal value, but I believe it has only a small moral value when you consider how it usually happens. So when a woman is legally married but has no real love for her husband, when her heart is free, and she meets a man she cares for and gives herself to him, when a man who's not tied to anyone else takes her in this way, I say they commit to each other through a mutual and free agreement more strongly than if they had all the religious ceremonies to sanctify it. This woman takes great risks. She knows it and gives everything, her heart, her body, her soul, her honor, her life. She's aware of the troubles, dangers, and disasters that might come her way. She dares and cares to be bold, courageous, and ready to face anything, even her husband who might harm her and society, which might reject her. That's why she deserves respect, even in the midst of her marital unfaithfulness. Her lover, in taking her, should also be prepared for everything and choose her above all else, no matter what. I've said what I had to say. I started as a sensible man warning you as my duty, but now I'm just a man who loves you. Command, and I'll follow. Radiant. She silenced him with a kiss and whispered softly, "Nothing is wrong. My husband doesn't suspect anything. I just wanted to see, to know what you'd do. I wanted to test your love for me. I hoped for a New Year's gift, the gift of your heart, in addition to the necklace you gave me. You've given it to me. Thank you. Thank you. I thank God for the happiness you've brought me.